In this Winning with Sketchup video, we're going to take a look at some subdivision modeling techniques and the SUbD plugin in particular. We're going to talk about how to prepare our base geometry or our base mesh for subdivision. And we're going to be using SUbD in combination with the quad face tools and the vertex tools, all from ThomThom. And we'll use a few other plugins as well along the way. To help illustrate things, we're going to use this chair and begin modeling some of the ornamental details here on the back of the chair. And we can see this here, and we can see these nice ornamental features here that we're going to try to emulate. You can look at that in a couple different settings there. And we're going to bring in this image here. And in order to bring in our reference image, we're going to just drag this from my hard drive here. We're going to drop this into the viewport, and that's going to bring in what SketchUp calls an image, and we can see that in the entity info. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that this image is roughly to the scale that we need it to be. So I'm going to scale this up here a little bit and just kind of double check some of the measurements here, and I'll scale this up a little bigger than it actually needs to be, and this will help with some of the subdivision things. So now we want to get in and we want to start to trace over our reference image. One thing that's going to be helpful here is the X-ray mode. So we'll be toggling that on and off, and I have a shortcut set up to do that. So you can see that there. And if you see things start to fade out, that means I've toggled on X-ray mode. So the other important thing when you're working with a reference image is to make sure that it is truly an image here, and this isn't a group. And if we would explode this and then group it, now we can see that this is a group and this is a surface. So the way SketchUp treats this is a little bit differently. In particular, when you're inside of a group. So if I have a group over here, and I'm just going to draw out a shape here for demonstration. I'm just going to group this, and I'm going to get inside of the group here, and we can see our image over here. We're inside of this group, and we're able to work inside of this group, manipulate these edges, work with this in general, but we haven't lost the texture of our reference image. The difference here is if we would explode this and this was a group, or we imported this texture image via our material window and applied it to a plane, and then we got into a group, we can see that image disappears. So it needs to be an image, so when we're inside of a group working, we don't lose our reference image. So that's an important thing. So I'm going to undo this here and get back to the point of just having our image, and then we're going to get in here and start to trace out some of these ornamental shapes here. And I'm going to take this section here, and what I want to do is I'm going to trace, let me start on the outside here, and I'm going to use a very low segmented arc, and this is set to 4 segments. So once I have that, I'm going to offset this here, and we're going to bring this up about the width of our piece that we're trying to create. And I'm going to go in and connect the ends to create a surface. Now if we move around here a little bit, sometimes we can see a little bit of Z fighting going on. And that's where going into X-ray mode comes in handy. The next thing we want to do is we want to connect these endpoints here. So we can go in and do that manually. And see, we're sitting flat on our reference image. And the way SUbD works, I'm just going to start with this small example here so we can demonstrate, is if I select our faces that we just created here, and I try to run SUbD, we can see that it's grayed out. And SUbD is looking for a grouped set of faces, or either you're selecting the group or you're inside of the group. So if I group this, we can see now the icon becomes active and I can toggle the subdivision on and off. If I get inside of the group as well, and I missed the endpoint there, so I'm going to fix that. I don't have anything selected, but I'm inside of this group. I can still toggle SUbD on and off. So if I'm on the outside, I have to have the group selected, and if I'm on the inside of the group, I can toggle SUbD on and off without anything being selected. So we can kind of see how SUbD works if we look here and turn on hidden geometry and take a look at these segments here. So we have these longer segments, and watch when we toggle SUbD. What it does is it creates a set of edges from the midpoint here, and it creates another set of edges from the midpoint here. So it's subdividing this here, and it's subdividing it here. Except when it's doing it, it's averaging things out to create more of a softening effect. So you can see that it's actually rounding this very faceted shape. So it's mathematically altering the curve here of our shape in between those longer segments. And this button here will increase the subdivisions. So with that first click, it added those divisions to the midpoints there. If we would subdivide again, it's going to add more subdivisions to the middle here. We have a midpoint here, and then all of these midpoints, and we can see what that did. So now in between these original edges in our control mesh, we now have 4 subdivisions. And if we would do this again and we counted these here, we could see we count 8, and so on. It will go up to 16 and then 32, and each time it'll take a little bit longer to calculate, and our mesh will get a little bit denser. But we can see that the smoothing on this curve becomes very, very clean overall, and we get a very nice, clean, smooth curve. And we can decrease those subdivisions here, and we can go in and we see the faceting start to return, and we can turn subdivision off and on once we're back to level 1. Now the other thing with SUbD is you have a crease tool, and what the crease tool does is it allows you to lock in place edges and vertices. So we can grab even these endpoints here, and if you hold Control, you can add to your selection. If you hold Shift, you can take away from your selection. So it's just like the normal SketchUp selection tools here. So if you hold Control and Shift together, you can subtract. You just hold Control, you can add, and Shift will do add and subtract. And we can adjust here this value. If we go all the way to 1, that's the highest value, and we toggle SUbD, we can see that now everything has subdivided except those corners are still maintained here. So if I grab this and bring that down, you can see what's happening. And let's turn up our subdivision levels here, grab this corner. We can see that rounding effect. So we can adjust this to get the desired result we want. And 50 will be about a half rounding of this, and 75 would be 3/4, and so on. All the way up to 1 would be no smoothing at all. We'd still get the subdivision, but it would hold that edge in place. And the same would go true of any of these points in here as well. We could select all these. If we turn that up, we could see that those become sharper as we increase that. So let's decrease our subdivisions here, and I'm going to take this and bring that back to 0. Don't want any creasing on here for now. So we have a couple other options here that we'll talk about, and the one is a particular type of push-pull that will not create any interfaces. So that's something that it's very similar to the standard push-pull. It just has a little bit of variation, and it's specifically handy for creating subdivision quads. So you can also toggle the visibility of the edges here. And we can see that that's turning on and off our what they call isoline edges. So these are the original edges of our control mesh that even though we have the subdivisions that are softened, those edges remain hardened. Turn that on and off there and see what's happening. So what we can do now is get in and start to manipulate with vertex tools. And with vertex tools, we have a lot of options here. A really good one for creating these quad strips, and that's really what we're doing here. We're trying to keep this strip that we're creating flat. We want to keep this in 2D for now, and that's really going to help us to move things around and get these vertices where we want them. And we can adjust a single vertice, move it around, use the move tool here and adjust that, or we can use the gizmo here and kind of lock our movement on one axis at a time. But if we grab two vertices and we hold control while we bring that out, we're actually bringing out another quad strip here. So we're extruding that edge essentially. And we can bring this out, we can rotate this, and with a shape like this, what we're trying to do is we're trying to keep our edges in between our quad strips. And we can see what we achieved here when we did this via the arc tool. And if we would do this manually, we're trying to create these connecting edges that are as perpendicular to these two edges. So if we would, essentially what we're trying to do is if we would draw a line between this point and this point, then this edge should be 90 degrees from this edge. It should be perpendicular, and we can see that it is. So it's averaged out the angle of this and the angle of this, and we want our connection to be as perpendicular to the path as possible. So we wouldn't want this edge to, let's say, be at this angle, because we can see that it not only stretches out our quad strips here, but it generally disrupts the flow of our subdivision as well. And we can see that things start to get skewed in subdivision, and they're not, as they come around here, they're not as straight as they should be. This really starts to play out once we extrude this and start to work now with 3D geometry. So we want to be careful when we're creating these new quad strips. And if we're using the vertex tools and we're doing those extrusions, we want to rotate those into place in between each time we extrude a new quad strip. And we can adjust these, and we can check this here by toggling on and off. Go into X-ray mode and toggle on and off our SUbD. And we really want to make sure that we're not putting too many edges in here either. And one thing we can do to get rid of some edges if we wanted, and we could go in, and let's say we wanted to get rid of these edges here. If we deleted them, we can see that we still kind of have the shape here because we still have our vertices here. So we can, if we turn on vertex tools, we can see those vertices are sitting there. So another option would be to, if we selected these edges and we wanted to remove them, there's an option here in quad face tools to remove loops, and we could remove those. And let's do a subdivision again. If we turn that up a couple times, turn off our hidden geometry, we can see that we're getting the same kind of shape here overall. We're just using less segments in our control mesh. So let's toggle that off, and what we would need to do in this case is compensate. So if we back this edge over here a little bit and ran SUbD, now we can see that our shape is getting more in line with our reference image underneath. So I'm just going to unsoften all of this here, and we want to do the same thing. I'm going to bring out a construction guide here, and we want to move this. Now we can check with SUbD, toggled on, and kind of see what's happening here. We can move this up, toggle SUbD on, and just adjust that until we start to get into place. So the less segments that we can get away with, the better. The more segments we have in there, generally the higher resolution we're going to have overall in our finished subdivided mesh. So I'm going to get in here now. It's also a good rule of thumb to, unless you're getting up around into this area, not to really try to move one of these at a time, because you can really start to throw things off. But that works in a situation like that. But pull these into place, and hitting Control, moving this out. And I don't really think we actually need this one. I'm going to remove that, and I'm going to grab Vertex Tools with that edge selected and come up here. And everything's good if we stay on one axis when we're moving things, and we're generally maintaining the same shape. As soon as I start to pull this up, then things start to narrow out here, so we got to be careful of that. I'm going to check our subdivision here and just make sure we're roughly in the same shape as we're coming around, and that looks good. Might want to even back this up just a little bit here, because things are starting to get a little bit tighter. And I can back this one up. Grab both of those verts, tap Control, or hold Control, and just move these into place here. Now I'm going to be making a little bit smaller segments as we're coming around here. And let's check this again. And it's a little bit high in here, so I'm just going to grab this whole face here, just bring it down just a tad here. And it's still a little bit high. We can see we have some white poking through. So try to grab that face again, just bring that down, maybe somewhere in there. Now that's looking a little bit better. We're hitting our marks here. So let's go around, let's turn back on Vertex Tools. Shrink this down here, maybe pull this way a little bit, grab both of those, hold Control, bring out another strip, and start pulling these into place here. And this is going to start tapering, so these are going to start coming in. And try to get this perpendicular to our kind of profile path here, if we're picturing that. And we can bring that out. Going to start moving these into place, and I like to go select none, and then I can start adjusting these here with just a single click, and we can check that on and off. And start speeding things up here. So now let's just finish off this end here. Start pulling these verts around. So that one went a little bit off there. Just make sure I'm snapping to where I want to. See what we're getting there? I'm getting that little bit of taper. And I'll grab this piece here. Just pull this final section out here. And just use vertex tools. Kind of pull this up into place. And then a little bit there. And take a look. And that looks good. Let's see what we've got there on our end. Just soften those, and now we should have a nice looking control mesh there. And toggle those edges on and off. Take a look at that, and it looks really good. So remember, this is just flat. We're just using quad strips with this method. So let's keep that on. Let's toggle this off, and let's just continue to work our way around here. We're going to use vertex tools again. Pull this out. Line this up on this section here, and kind of drag this back. Hold control, and this one needs to come down here just a little bit. And by working in 2D only, get a little bit off there. We're generally keeping things as quads because we're moving everything flat on one plane, and we're just really moving one or two vertices at a time, which really helps keep things where they need to be. We just want to double check sometimes that we're not doing that, or we're going off. And if we use the gizmo, you're not going to go off the plane, but I generally will cheat a little bit just to try to speed things up. Rotate this here, bring it down, bring it over. Rotate a little bit more, bring that out, rotate that, and now I want to taper this down a little bit. And if you don't have vertex tools, you can do some of this manually. You could use edge extrude here and just pull out a new edge using the extrusion tools. And you could do that as well. You can grab this extrude edges by vector, pull that out, and kind of create some strips, and then make sure they're not in a group. And then with nothing selected, you can get in there with the move tool and move some of these verts around as needed. Start to adjust things here. So let's see what that looks like. And that looks good. So I want to pull this out here just a little bit. And maybe I want to pull this whole edge over just a little bit. And I think that'll do the trick there. So just a little flat in here. I'm going to cheat this just a little bit. There we go. Yeah, it looks a little better. And stuff like this, you really want to keep the spacing even here overall on the inside there. There we go. So that looks really good, and I'm going to make sure, I want to unsoften that there. And just take a look at this as it's sitting. And we have a really nice, clean. We're only here with, let me grab just the faces, but we've got 16 faces in this control mesh altogether. And when we subdivide that, we've got 2,048 faces. So that went up and just doubled and doubled and doubled. We could probably back this off just a little bit. Now we're at 512. Now we're at 128. Let's go up again. Looks pretty good for what we need. So a little bit of faceting there. So, but for now, looks like it gets a little bit thin in here. So I'm just going to fatten this up a little bit here. And see what that looks like. That looks pretty good. I'm happy with that. So now if we look back at our reference image, we can see that we had this piece in the middle here that is kind of sticking out a little bit. Let me go over here and look at this, and it's not too pronounced. It actually starts to get a little thinner and flatter in through here. But let's see that overall. So what we need to do is go in and get inside here and bring back our image and turn off our subdivision here. And we need to go back and work on our control mesh. And what we want to do is we're going to use quad face tools. We're going to do some loops here. So I'm going to do a ring selection, and you can see what that does. It goes around and selects all our connecting edges in here. A loop selection here would select everything that's connected that way. So let's grab a ring selection. We're going to use this insert edge loops option, and that's going to go through, and you can kind of see exactly what that did. Was just to put an edge loop in the middle there. And what we can do with that edge loop, we can pull this out here. And we want to make sure that we're coming out exactly 90 degrees here. So we should be exactly on the green axis. And there we go. Just tap Alt and that'll bring that out there. So we can also try to do this here. Just select that and run vertex tools. Now we can just grab this way. Now we see we've brought that out there. And we saw how that kind of flattened out in through here. We can actually push that back in a little bit. Just those three verts there. We'll bring those in just a little bit and make it a little less pronounced in through there. And let's toggle again. Let's turn off here. I'm going to go to monochrome mode and take a look at this. And that looks pretty good. Nice clean control mesh there. Nice clean subdivision. And I want to really sharpen this here. I'm going to make a loop selection. I'm going to go to crease. And let's crease this here. And I'm getting an error. Try this again. Still throwing an error, so I'm going to deselect this. Just want to crease this section here, and I'm actually do a loop selection here, and then I'm just going to deselect those and see if I can crease just these edges here. I'm going to bring that up to about 70 maybe. And let's run SUbD again. And take a look at that. And that looks really good. So it might be extruded out just a little bit far with those. And I think we could get away with when we're done scaling some things down here. So let's turn this off. And the other thing we want to do, I want to crease the whole back of this. So I'm going to do a couple loop selections there. I'm going to go to infinitely sharp there. Toggle that there. That looks really good. And just got this little corner back here. And I'm going to crease these 2 points here. I'm going to bring those up. And try to make a connection there. It's not a quad, but it still should hold fairly well there. So do the same thing over here. I'm just going to crease these 2 points here. And then I'm just going to connect that. And try that again. There we go. It's holding a lot better. Now I'm going to make this into a component. I just converted that into a component there. Bring this a copy of this here on the green, and I'm going to flip that along the green. And then make sure that this is snapped to here. Run that again and see what that looks like. So it's a little bit sharp in there for my liking. So what we can do, let me pull this out here. And looks like we have a little bit of an issue here in the back that this face was formed, and I don't want a face back here. So I'm going to go through and delete all of these edges. Just erase them with the eraser tool, and then delete that face itself. And now I just want to grab, see if I can get a loop selection of all those edges. And I'm going to, I can go into vertex tools now, and I can hold control and just pull out a copy of those edges. If we wanted, we could bring the entire mesh here and flip that. Bring that over, line that up, and do a loop selection, delete that center there. I'm going to select everything, I'm going to unsoften it all here. And I'm going to use quad face tools and just rebuild the quads by selecting 2 surfaces on either side of these triangles that represent a quad. And I'm going to use this button here, convert triangulated mesh to quads, and that'll go through and fix everything. And just have a little bit of an issue here. And I think what I want to do is see if I can get in and snap that to there. Grab that and snap that to the midpoint there. Might be able to get in and just scale this whole thing here and then delete that face. And you won't really see it there. So I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm just going to snap this to the midpoint here and snap this to the midpoint here. grab all of these and scale them in from the midpoint there, and then just delete that face. And now we should have a nice, good, clean, subdivided surface there on both sides. You can see what that looks like. And we can see how that tapers in there in the middle, which is really nice. And you can grab that. I think we need to scale it in here just a little bit. And there we go. Now that looks a lot more like what it should as far as the 3D aspects of it. So I'm really happy with that overall. So that's it for that piece. And I'm gonna bring this back here. And bring that on the green. And just want to kind of snap it there. Turn this on. Subdivide that. And now what I want to do is just build this little piece here. So we're going to do that the same way. We're just going to get in here, and I'm just going to start at this corner here. And we're going to come around and actually bring this to about here, and I just want to grab that with nothing selected. I just want to grab that end there. See if I can pull this at all, move this at all. And now I should be able to even get in here. And before we do anything, just get these verts where I want them. And I'm going to go to select none. And just kind of move these around. And let's line those up first. Let's erase the ones that maybe we don't need. And let's just move these into place here so we can keep them underneath. Here. Go here to here and get rid of that. So let's just start with that, and let's grab that. Let's see if we can offset that. And it looks like it might be sitting up in the air in one spot. So I want to flatten that. And I'm just going to go back to quad face tools, and I'm going to make sure everything is sitting on the same plane there. And I'm going to use another tool here, and I'm going to grab this from the artisan tools, and I just want to flatten this here on the, looks like, there we go. Now I should be able to pull that and have that sitting flat against our surface there. Now I should be able to offset that. And that's a little better there. So I'm just going to hide this shape. And connect those ends. Connect those ends. And I'm going to use the split sausage tool here from the split tools. Just make those connections, and now just get in here quick with our vertex tools. And I can make this into a group here. Get inside of that group, and we can toggle this on and off. Reverse those edges there. That looks pretty good. Okay, just keep tweaking that there. Get that where we want it. And we'll come through, make sure we unsoften that. And that looks pretty good. What we're going to do is we're going to do a ring selection and add another edge loop there. And I'm going to bring this out here. And just going to bring this out just a little bit. And deselect those and just bring this out here a little bit further. And that looks pretty good. Like that. And let's increase the subdivision there. And we're going to get in here and let's crease these to about 80. And then crease these two here up to maybe 40. And let's look at that again. Looks pretty good. And I want to crease this point here. Crease this point here. Draw an edge across here. And let's see. A little bit of an issue back here. Should hold up. And now we can turn that off, and let's just do the same thing we did before. Let's grab this edge loop here, and let's go to vertex tools, hold control, bring this out, and grab everything here. And let's make a copy on the green axis. Let's flip that on the green and snap that back into place. And let's make a loop selection and delete that middle. I want to unsoften everything, and then I want to go and rebuild the quads here. So that looks good. I'm going to grab this vert here and snap it to our midpoint. Grab this vert here, snap it to our midpoint. Grab all these verts and get in, scale them down, and then I'm going to delete that face. And I may or may not want to see here. soften or unhide this here. And let's see what that looks like. I think I'm going to bring this out here on the green axis just a little bit. And let's try maybe 1/4 inch, 1/8 inch, something like that. Let's try 1/4 inch. Trick. And looks like I want to get in here and I want to adjust some of these verts here. Move them over. And I'm going to line this up here and try to make it match. I'll do the same here. So let's just grab all of these here and let me scale them in just a little bit. I'm trying to move this shape here. Pretty happy with that. I think that'll look good once it's textured. As we don't have any noticeable gaps there. Looks like it's fairly well intersected on either side. So I'm going to call that good. And now we can move on and we have to create this piece here. And we have this little lower piece here, and then everything really gets mirrored across. And then we just have this ornamental detail here and these connectors. So let's move on to the next piece. So let's take this piece here next. It looks like it's the same as this piece, but it's a little more visible. So I'm going to go ahead and draw around the outside here. Come back and move these verts into place as we need. We're using this 4-segment arc here, very small. So I'm just going to get in here and move a couple of these around and get rid of a couple segments here. try to even these out a little bit here. Looks a little better. I'm going to end up removing quite a bit of these through here. This is pretty flat overall, so don't need a ton of segments through here. And looking at this, I might actually take and break this into two sections here. So I'm going to try find the midpoint, and I'm going to draw this across. I think I'm just going to start with this side here. I'm going to grab that and offset it. And we just want our segment count to match up here, so I'm going to get in and play with some of these verts as well. So we can get in here and close this off first. And then we're going to run split sausage. And I'll reverse those faces there. And I can get in here and remove some of these edge loops here that we probably don't need. So I'm not sure why it's doing that there, but I'm just going to redraw this and then tweak this into place here. Go into X-ray mode and select none and start moving these around here. So we got an extra vert here with nothing to match on the other side, so we need to get rid of this section, and that's what's going on. Alright, so we just need to grab this here and bring that in. Now everything should be flat. And we can get in here, select none. I don't want that there. Close that off. And let's put this in a group for now. I don't want any of this in the group, so we want to be able to SUbD that. And just see how we're matching up here. Looks like we can pull this way a little bit. A little bit bigger, coming around here, bring this in here, this. That doesn't look bad overall. Pull this point down a little bit. So I'm pretty happy with that. Grab that, I'm going to unsoften that, and grab this whole thing, and I'm going to try to mirror this here along this plane. Enter. And I want to group that and try to flip this here. Snap that down into there. Okay, so just want to make sure I flip these faces here. Come around, flip all those. Yeah, I'm going to use Frito scale here and tweak the scale on some of these edges. Just another way to kind of adjust these vertices here. It doesn't look bad overall. Happy with that. So now I can just get in here and let's do a ring selection and actually delete this set of edges here. And let's do a ring selection. Let's do a connect there. And we're going to get in, do the same thing. We're going to pull this out here just a little bit. And I'm going to deselect those middle pieces and come out just a little bit further there. Maybe a little bit much. Back that off. And I'm happy with that. So I'm going to get in here. I want to now do some creasing. Crease that point, crease that point, and draw from there to there. Come around here and do the same thing. Crease that point, draw an edge from there to there, double check. What's going on here is the back is closed. We don't want that there, so I'm gonna come around, delete these edges here. Get rid of that, grab that, let's do loop selection, and let's crease that, go all the way up to 1. Now it should be good and tight, and let's grab this middle, do a loop, and let's crease this up to maybe 40 or so, and then I'm going to take these middle pieces here and deselect those, and now bring this crease up a little bit higher here, 85 or so. Now let's run that, take a look at that, and it looks pretty good. Let's grab this outer edge, do a loop selection, and hold control, bring that out there, and grab everything, bring a copy over, flip along the green direction, come back and snap that into place, grab that middle section there, so let's actually unsoften everything first. Now let's get in and run that there and bring that over like that. Now we want to do this with our control mesh, not our subdivided mesh. Now we should get that and be able to run that edge loop, delete it, grab everything, unsoften it, and then let's just rebuild our quads here. Now we should get a nice mesh here. We got a little issue down here, and let's do what we did before. Let's grab that, snap it to the midpoint, grab that, snap it to the midpoint, grab all of these, and let's just scale them in, and delete that face. There's a nice end on that, and let's go up here, and grab that piece, snap it to the midpoint, grab that piece, snap it to the midpoint, grab all of these, and scale them in, and delete that face. looks pretty good. I'm happy with that. And just need to build this end piece over here. And bring a copy of this out. And let's see, we want to flip this along the red. Snap that back there. Take this and just rotate it here a little bit. Bring this over on the green. Flip it along the red. Scoot it back over here. And just kind of line this up here. Something like that. And let's mirror this across. Let's try to find the midpoint here. Come up on the blue, over on the green. Now we've mirrored that across, move that back over on the red, just until we can get those to touch. And that looks good. We just need to come in here now, and we're going to build this section. And we can actually take a piece of this now. And I think we've built enough of this that we can get in and grab a piece here. And I'm just going to copy that and then explode that back. I'm going to paste that there. And try to maybe flip this along the blue. Rotate that up into place here. Like that. And we may be able to even get rid of this last section here. Let's see. Can move that around. Something like that there. Looks pretty good. Let's bring that back. And let's try to mirror this here. So bring that up and over on the green. Move this down into place here. So we got a little bit more tweaking to do here. Bump some of those subdivisions up. That looks pretty good. I think I might even be able to take some of this end here. Let's get inside and grab this section, copy that, close the group. And save that. Let's get over here. And paste that into place there. Flip this here, bring that up into place. Let's move some of these points here. Alright, so get in here and want to manipulate some of these. Go around here, and get in here and grab both of these shapes and isolate them, grab them all. Adjust these here so they line up a little bit. Come in here, let's see, maybe we can grab this edge loop and remove it. Let's see what that looks like. Rotate this a little bit here, a little flat in there. And let's see what that looks like. Turn that up a notch. Alright, so these new edges aren't softened the same way, or creased the same way. So let's look at our creasing here. See, these aren't creased at all. These here are infinitely creased, both sets. So I'm going to grab these and make those infinitely sharp as well. Now when I turn on SUbD, everything should match up. And I just need to do the same thing down here. And grab everything. And let's just rebuild those quads real quick. And now, let's see how that looks. Much better. So I'm happy with that. Let's mirror that across. And come up with that here. And just try to pull that into place here. Alright, so now we're just left with this little piece up here. And look at this, and I'm going to build this in little sections here. And try to see if I have maybe another image in our reference images. It looks a little bit better. You kind of see that there. Take a look at that. And it's not such a bad shape overall here, so let's get in and just tweak this. Looks like the front has a little bit more detail to it. So I'm just going to kind of draw this upper leaf section first. So let's just get in here with our line tool. And just offset this here. And go ahead and connect the ends. Grab that, run split sausage and connect there. And let's just turn on X-ray mode here. And I'm just going to get in and move some of these points around here. Just keep it pretty simple overall. Come up a little bit higher here, maybe. Pull this up about there. And let's get in here. And looks like we popped out of planar there. So let's grab this and pop everything back to coplanar, and I just want to flatten that. I'm just going to grab this and just really quick, I want to do this with Artisan. Make sure everything's flat, and go ahead, grab this, make sure I'm sitting directly on here, make that a group, check that with SUbD. Looks pretty good overall. Inside here, just want to pull some of this around here, turn this up, this in just a little bit here. And looking for that general overall shape here. Let's go. And soften that. And we'll pull this out here just a little bit more. And pull this out this way just a little bit like that. So it looks pretty good. I'm just going to grab that, unsoften that again. And let me bring this edge up here just a little bit. And connect from here to here. And come up here, and then I'm just going to connect the ends like this. Finish that off like that. And what I want to do here is, see, we just want to kind of put a little bit of a, let's do an offset here, and let's do an offset here, and you know what, I'm just going to get in and connect it here, I think. Delete these edges. And now look at that. Okay, let's undo that, and select all these faces here, and I'll try to pull this out here on the green like this. See what that looks like. And I'm having some issues here because this isn't a quad anymore, so it's kind of breaking things. So let's undo that here, undo, and we had some issues here. And I'm gonna delete these. For some reason this isn't lined up here properly. And grab those, make those into that. Now it's starting to work out here. Let's undo that. And we have this piece here we need to bring like that. And it looks better like that. Alright, so now I'm just going to grab the outer edge here and use vertex tools. We're going to hold control, move that over just a little bit, and I'm going to get it here and mirror this. And we can just mirror it this way as well. And get in here, grab this loop and delete it. And the only issue we're having here is this edge here is out too far, so let's undo that. And I'm just going to grab this and move this in on the green. So these edges here around the outside need to be, let's see here, move that this way a little bit. Pose like that. Now we should be able to go ahead and mirror this like this. And get rid of this edge loop here. And we're just going to get in here and grab this edge here and crease it. And throw a little bit of crease here. Bring that in a little bit. And then maybe throw some crease here, here, here. And we can loop that actually. Yeah, something like that. So let's move this over, flip this here along the red. And go ahead and smooth both of those out. And we can get in here, do a little bit of tweaking too. And custom.